Hey everyone, welcome to another podcast with The Funded Trader. Today I'm joined by Sonia. She's a life and business coach. She focuses on human design and subconscious reprogramming. I'm really excited to have this conversation with her today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this one's going to be a bit different. So Sonia is not a trader with The Funded Trader. She's not with our program, nothing like that. She is in the world of psychology. She's in the world of studying the inner workings of yourself. And I feel like that is relevant to all of you guys. So I want to start to bring on people like Sonia, some different people in different industries, give you guys some different perspectives. So this is going to be a bit of a different conversation, but we're going to try to tie everything we're talking about into trading, so you guys really can actually relate to this and put this maybe into practice. But yeah, to get started, I mean, do a bit of introduction, who you are, and we'll start with that.
Sure. So my name is Sonia Petecka, and I'm a life and business coach. And basically, I help people overcome their limiting beliefs or reprogram their limiting beliefs to more empowering ones. So, I feel like it's relevant in any field because, the beliefs we have about ourselves, about money, about the world, they shape how we experience reality
100%.
And our results. So yeah, really excited to share on this. I usually don't think about trading, but I'm excited
Is
to
this
see
your
how
first podcast?
No, so I've done other podcasts. I haven't done one in studio, so this is kind of a new experience. Mostly I've done some on my computer and mostly with other personal growth professionals. So yeah, this is awesome.
This is a new thing. So I find it very interesting, personally, the whole growth and mindset and coaching space. There's a lot going on there, right? There's people trying to, I feel like for the most part, help other people. Then there's people trying to make money, right? In the coaching space, social media is really big with it. People are on social media trying to get customers, right? All this stuff, trying to create community. So where do you fall in this space? Like, how would you describe your involvement in the coaching space?
Yeah, so I think I kind of bridge the the very scientific approach, and my undergrad was in biochemistry. I was pre-med in college, so very very cerebral and intellectual, and eventually I decided to get my MBA and not go the medical route, and I feel like now I'm a healer in a very different way, but. So yeah, I spent years in the corporate world, got to know that world, and during that time, I realized that I'm really interested in, through my own experiences, because I needed to heal myself. I tried a bunch of different things, heal physically, emotionally, and mentally. So, I discovered Kundalini yoga while I was in business school, and then human design, and just gathered all these tools, and eventually subconscious reprogramming to really help myself at first. I always wanted to be a coach, but I knew I needed to go through that journey myself. So, I think a lot of people on this path say that it's the journey from the head into the heart and into the body. And that's been my experience. And that's why I focus on the subconscious, because it's beyond just what we think. What we think influences 1% to 5% of our reality. And really, it's the subconscious programming, which is related to our emotions, that influences 95 to 99% of what we experience in this lifetime. So, yeah. So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question. In my design, I'm very nonlinear, which human design is another thing I want to talk about. But so, I go all over the place in the best way, and it all ends up making sense in the end.
No, it's very, very interesting. So to give you guys some more background, originally I was going to this networking event called Miami Made for founders and startup startup people, and one of the speakers was Sonia I think it was one of the first events that I went to, and you ran through your story. We did an exercise where you were channeling us to go from, like you were saying, our head into our body. Can you walk through that exercise again? Like, what did we do, and what was the purpose of that again?
Sure. So one of the things you can reprogram on a subconscious level is stressful situations. So anything we've experienced in the past, like traumatic events, that's trauma still lives within the subconscious. So what we were doing there is we were bringing peace on a subconscious level to a stressful situation, whether it's in the past, whether it's something we're currently stressed about, or something, in the future. And once you have peace around it on a subconscious level, you can respond more resourcefully to that situation instead of reacting out of, the trauma or the stress. Because when we're stressed, we don't always make the best decisions. Like when we're reacting, when we're in that triggered, ungrounded state, we can kind of add fuel to the fire,
create more problems,
right? Instead of when we integrate this stress, when we sit with it, when we transform it into peace, then we can make more aligned decisions. So that's what we were doing, and I've actually seen this process work wonders. Like one client had like panic attacks, and we did this with a few situations that happened before she started getting them. And then she hasn't had any panic attacks in over a year. And she had tried like a bunch of different things before she was referred to me. So yeah, it can be very powerful. We all have these, things that we're stressed about or that disturb our peace. So when we can live more in the frequency of peace, like things start flowing more easily.
Yeah, and it's I like what you said, like it's about the flow state, right? It's like how do we achieve or get back to the flow state? And these, like that exercise that we did seems like it was something to try to get us back into a flow state of mind. From what I can remember, you basically were having us sit there with our eyes closed, thinking about pain that we either had, whether it was in the body or something that was going on in our life, and it was like sitting with that pain. And then I forgot if we were doing something with our hands, but it was like wait until it begins to dissipate, right? And then don't open your eyes until like the tension releases. And there was some people where it took a long time, and then there was some people where it was like really quick. So like how often when you're working with someone do you have them go through that type of exercise, or it's just dependent on the person?
Well, basically, I work with people long term usually. But yeah, every session there is some triggering situation because, that they had experienced, because our triggers show us, where we still have things to look at or to grow.
And we all have them.
Right. Yeah. They're so fun, those triggers, but it's like you don't even need to like look for things to focus on in your personal development because they're there in your triggers. So whatever upset you last, that's something that, you might want to work with. Yeah.
And so for people that are in like extremely high stress environments, right? And this could be related to trading, could be related to other things. And like on a weekly basis, right? They're dealing with all of these stressful situations. Like how would you advise or what would you give as feedback to someone like that who understands they're having a lot of stress, but they don't know how to manage it?
Yeah, there's, so we talked about this procedure and I forgot to address the other part of your question, which was the whole brain posture that, you do this. But yeah, basically working with this stress in this context and also programming empowering beliefs. So with the same process that you went through with the stressful situation, you can also program beliefs where you have limiting beliefs, maybe like I get angry easily or whatever, like you can transform that into, I stay calm in every situation, something positively stated that, is emotionally meaningful to you. But so that's in session. And then in between sessions, I'm big into breath work. So, before we started the podcast, we did a little connected breathing.
I think it was recorded. Maybe it wasn't. We'll have to check. We'll have to check afterwards. But no, I really enjoyed. It was we did some intention setting breathing. Yeah.
So breath work is huge to regulate the nervous system, to get you into a calm, peaceful state. I do this connected breathing practice twice a day for at least 15 minutes. And like I get like intuitive hits and downloads and, kind of like reach out to this person and just these ideas, because you slow down your brain waves and you get access to your creativity, really. So in that theta brainwave, you start getting you start getting new ideas. So I love it. So breath work is huge, and just this practice of being present, and you can practice that at any time. You can connect to your breath. That's the easiest part. So basically, the connected breathing is breathing without pausing through the nose, without pausing between the exhales and inhales. And actually, it's how animals naturally breathe, because they need to stay present and they want to maintain like the maximum level of oxygenation. And
so I want to pause. Yeah. I want to ask you. So do you believe that like in animals, right? The reason that they want to stay present is because they're in a constant state of fear? I mean, obviously we don't know, but like what do you think?
No, I don't think they worry that much. I mean, they need to be present in order to to react, right? Mm-hmm. If anything happens. But I don't think they live in a constant state of fear like we do.
The reason I say that is because I feel as though the more comfortable that you become, the more detached you become from being present, right? You're just, I don't know, you're not engaging in these activities that can make you kind of peel back the onions of your mind or whatever. Like you're comfortable, right? You're sitting there and you're comfortable. Like I feel like doing intentional breathing, working out, maybe reading, like all of these things are very conscious actions, and it's work that needs to be done, right? At the end of the day. And like the people that are just so comfortable and they do none of these actions, like they lose that essence of being present. And that's why I bring up like, are animals just always in fear? Like why are they always trying to be as present as possible? You know what I mean? Or maybe it's something else.
Well, I think we're not present because to me, we're in our heads, at least in, how I was raised. It was like logic and intellect were valued. And certainly I, did a lot of overthinking in my life and still do because, and it's that constant kind of chatter. So to me, presence is about getting out of the head and really being here in this body right now and connecting to kind of this wisdom beyond the mind. Because the mind, I feel, limits us in a way. Because it can only conceive of so many scenarios, and it tries to control and plan. And
very true.
But we can't control everything. So I feel like, we have these images of the future and of the past, and none of it is real except for like, what's happening here right now. So that's why I think getting back into the body through the breath or another way is so important. So
I like what you said about the stream of ideas, whatever wave that frequency it is. I'm not too well versed in that, but I've realized with myself, if I am busy all the time, right, if I'm thinking all the time, I have no room for creativity. Right, mm-hmm. I have no room for ideas. So part of what I do is, because for those that don't know, like I'm very conscious, like with my work and with what my routine and stuff I try to do. So part of my routine is to do activities that clear my mind to a point where I'm then receptive to like these ideas, this new information, right? I'm sitting there and I'm at peace. I have no angst or anything like that. And all of a sudden, like you said, there's like this tsunami of, oh my God, we should be doing this. Oh my God, I should be doing this. I should be focusing on that. Da, 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 da. And then I write them down, and then it's like, oh my, like I share that with the team, and then it's like we're off and running, right? So I see that even in my own life, like, and I think a lot of people out there, right, they're so busy, right? They're thinking all the time, like they're never setting aside time to create that space. So like, what advice would you have for people that, like you said, every day, 15 minutes, twice a day, you do breathing? Like, it is not easy to do that type of routine, right? That type of habit. Like, what advice do you have for people to get started with something like that? Like, how do you stay disciplined? I know it's probably not easy, right?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about there. I mean, I believe that we don't actually need, like, so in my human design, which is still something I want to talk about, I am consistent. So I thrive on routine, but some people don't. So I like the, getting up, doing my breathing practice, and kind of doing one later in the day to reset. But I believe that any moment is an opportunity to practice presence. So obviously it's harder once we're in that triggered state already, but as much as possible, and it's really about learning to just be, and it's infusing this kind of these feminine energy principles of being, of, connecting to our intuition. And
that's a big one.
Right, because that's when we're overthinking, we don't have access to the intuition.
No, and the intuition is what it is it's based on all of the information that you have, right? Like that's accessible to you. That intuition is just a subconscious way of expressing that, in my opinion. And I feel like people don't listen to that, or they don't trust their intuition, right? And I think that's a huge thing. And I didn't know that's like a feminine energy, but like it's important to me. I feel.
Yeah, and I think the intuition, so in human design, the intuition lives in the body. It's not in the head. We were taught to make decisions with our heads, that to do what makes sense, what we're like, okay, I'm gonna get this job so I can make this certain amount of money, or whatever linear thinking, right? But the body and, our hearts, there's a lot of studies being done on the heart and how it has wisdom, and our bodies, like beyond the thoughts. So, for example, and everyone has in human design a unique flavor of intuition. So, for example, mine is sacral. So it's like really going or making decisions that feel expansive and exciting in my body. Because like for so long, I was taught to just do, what made sense, or what I should, what people expected of me. And I'm like, why am I so tired? And why does life feel so blah? And because, I got the corporate job, I got the education and all of that, but it wasn't really lighting me up, and really.
This is something that a lot of people listening are going to relate to. Continue.
I'm glad. So it's really listening to how it feels in your body, and does that feel exciting? Does it pull me? Do I sit up straighter? When I think about it, or when I feel into it, really. So, and that's just mine. Like everyone has their own flavor of intuition, a unique flavor of intuition, I like to call it.
So I have a question. Do you feel as though intuition is, like I say, it's all the information that you have access to, and do you feel that information is external as well? Like it's universal, or it's just stuff that you know, right? Like do you feel as though your intuition comes from like a universal understanding or universal intelligence versus just your own?
Yeah, I do. I mean, like you can get signs and synchronicities, right, that show you maybe that this is the way. When you are present and you're living in alignment, then you recognize how you are in a way being guided, and you run into someone and it's some people say it's a coincidence, but I do believe that that we're shown a way, and I've experienced it, so I can talk about specific. How I ended up in Miami was exactly that, listening to that expansive feeling in my body, and then I got a few signs from the universe, or whatever you believe in, for the universal intelligence, to come here, and yeah.
So where did you grow up? Where are you from?
So I grew up in Poland. I was born there and lived there till I was 16, and but had been coming to the U.S. kind of for a few weeks a year since I was 4. And then, when I was 16, my mom and I moved. My dad's still in Poland, and finished high school here, did college, grad school, and so I've been in the U.S. almost 20 years now.
So you've been in the U.S. more than you've lived in Poland.
Right.
Interesting. So the reason I ask is our audience is international, right? It's people from all over the world, and some people may be watching and are like, oh, this is just a U.S. thing. This is just a Miami thing, right? Do you work with clients all over the world?
Yeah,
right?
I do.
You do.
Yeah.
You work with people that are international. Like, how do you find like culture influences people's human design?
Well, not their human design per se. I mean, there are some, because human design is based on the time and place you were born. So that's kind of like your most authentic self, right? It tells you about that, your gifts, your talents, etc., how to use your energy. But more, it's like the cultural influence on your beliefs, like, right? Like we are programmed, like our subconscious is programmed during the first 7 years of our lives. So, and it kind of just happens like by osmosis, you just get imprinted with what...
Which is scary.
Yeah. And it's like, if you don't actually do the work of looking at your programming, then you're just repeating the previous generations,
right?
What they experienced. So I think, there's some differences culturally, but I think we all are... There's this universal programming of, like, do what makes sense and, do things to please others. I mean, it varies a little bit, but...
depending where you grow up, the morals are... The compass is a bit skewed in certain directions, so you might think that you're doing something right, or like your sense of right and wrong, but it's like two extremes maybe from certain cultures and stuff like that, which is interesting. But getting back to like the human design, so let's define what it is, right? So what is somebody's human design? So
it's a combination of different systems, and actually it was, I guess, downloaded in 1987 by this guy, Raoul, who he meditated for like 8 days in Ibiza. But it's actually like, it's a combination of the chakra system, the Chinese I Ching, Kabbalah, Tree of Life, astrophysics. I think I'm missing one. But anyways, it's but the point is not like, and there is like a more scientific explanation of it, that it's about the subatomic particles coming from the sun that are conditioning us at the time of our birth, or that it's our genetic expression. However, it's like, okay, but how does it help? It's so basically, it tells you about your most authentic self and how to properly use your energy so that you have more energy, so that you attract the opportunities that are right for you, that you create, a life that feels fulfilling. And then it also talks about, your unique flavor of intuition, how to make the right decisions for yourself. And then, your gifts, your talents, your superpowers, how you're meant to learn, how you're meant to eat, interact with others. So there's a lot, but
a lot to unpack there.
But basically, it guides you to your most authentic self. Like when we were born, we are living as our most authentic expression because, but then as we get programmed, we kind of are taken away from that. So, this learning about your human design is basically coming back and removing those layers of conditioning and programming and coming back to your most authentic
Your truth.
self. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, coming back to your
alignment too, yeah.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about the alignment. An example recently is we hired this new employee. I won't name them on here, but they were doing really well, right, over the last month, and it was their first month with the company. They're just killing it, right, with all the stuff they're doing, and I message them, I say, hey, you're doing a great job, and they were like, yeah, I'm like, also in my trading, I'm doing really well too, like, and I could just tell that, and this was like their dream position, right, like they got their dream position, they're working in trading, they're working with our company, they're creating content. This is exactly what they want to be doing to be fulfilled right now. So I'm just like, yeah, like you have to understand you're living in alignment with who you really want to be. And that is why now there's like this overflow of energy, this overflow of momentum, and you're seeing the results of that, right? And I thought it's like amazing to me to see that for her. And then with myself, I've experienced it. Like I'm living in alignment with the company, right? Like it was originally an idea, and then I was super passionate about it, and a lot of other things, right? And this is really where I wanted to be, and I'm living in it. And then that's why we're overflowing with opportunities and challenges as well. But it's like I feel as though I can not solve anything, but I have enough energy to make an effort to do it, right? So for the people that are, they're listening to this podcast, they're working a job they don't like right now, right? They're living a shitty, unfulfilled life. Maybe they're in a relationship they're not happy in. Like, how do we get these people to get back into alignment, right? Like, what is the advice to them and it could be something very simple. It could be more complex, right? Like, what's the advice to you? Like, how do we get them back?
Yeah, that's very individual, but first of all, that's amazing, and imagine a world where everyone's doing something that really lights them up, and then we're all kind of fulfilling our roles, and so I do believe that that's where we're headed, and that's beautiful that you have that example, and yeah, so happy, so congratulations, and yeah, so. Yeah, there's a lot, but just starting to become aware of like, does this feel authentically me, like me, what I'm doing, or, whatever it is, or is it just I've been told that I should be doing this, or that this is a good idea? Like, does it really light my soul up on fire, or yeah, so really, and just knowing that there's nothing you have to change in this moment as you practice, being present with what is, and again, not reacting, but just sitting with it, and really maybe sitting with that discomfort. I believe that, as we do that without reacting, like it is eventually transmuted and transformed into something, like we're shown the way to what serves us. So, there's nothing like, don't do anything because because I've done that in my life where I'm like, okay, I need to change. So, I'll move somewhere else, or, I'll leave this relationship. But like you take all those patterns with you, and for a while you might feel better, and you're like, okay, I made the change. And then not to say that the physical change is not important, but I think approaching it just from like, this is so uncomfortable, I'm just gonna, I used to like travel a lot, but it's basically because I wanted to escape, my life when I was in corporate. And anyway, so you can make the changes in the physical, but it's like, unless you address the deeper issue, it's probably not, like the good feeling is not gonna last. So yeah, so it's not a simple answer. I wish I could just give you, but yeah, it's always about like, what is really that deeper calling, and what is like my mind and the fears, like, because that's really the biggest problem with listening to your intuition. It's like hard to distinguish, like, what's intuition and what's fear, right? Or what is like just our thoughts. So I think, yeah, however you can get yourself to become present, to connect with the present moment, whether that's breath work or meditation or maybe working out, like we all have different ways.
Form of meditation,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah. Whether it's, going to the beach, watching the sunset,
I will say this, right? Working out can be meditative. If you're going to the gym, drinking 10 protein shakes and throwing up, 5 million pounds, could it be meditative? Yes. Is it maybe egotistical? Probably, right? So it might be a bit different, but I'll just throw that out there.
Well, it's like, it's not actually about what we do. It's about the intention. Because even meditation can become like an escape. And I certainly, I'm addicted to breath work. Yeah. Like, it's a good addiction. But like some people are addicted to working out. Yeah. It's like, oh, if I don't work out, I can't,
right.
feel
Driven
stable.
By fear or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I can't be my best self if I don't work out. But that's not true freedom. It's like, and I get like a little anxious when I skip my breathing practice, and I know that's, maybe I've changed one addiction for another, but really it's about the intention, and anything can become an escape.
Yeah, I agree. I think that even with myself, these healthy habits, they could be. I have an obsessive personality. That's just how I am when I am focused on something, or I have a goal, or I'm just like, I want to get it done, right? I become like that. And I found that, like you said, you can kind of exchange one addiction for another. So for me, I used to smoke a lot of weed. That was like the thing I used to do, that I was addicted to it and I loved it. But then I recognized that it was a habit that was destructive. And then I quit. Like 2 years ago, I quit. But it was a long time trying to reprogram myself to get off of it. It was so hard, right? It was like 3 months I'd stop, and then I'd relapse and smoke. And weed's not like too bad, but it was a destructive thing for me. And so it was so hard to like just wean myself kind of off of it. And then eventually I achieved like a sense of reprogramming where I disassociated myself from the idea that I love weed and reassociated with the idea that it was a destructive habit for my life that wasn't actually making me happy and fulfilled, right? But I really don't have any idea like how I did that. It was really just all like self-reflection, I guess. So I was in like a very reflective state, and then I set the intention to go in a certain way. But yeah, I know there's a lot of people out there, right? They have these really bad habits. Like people have such bad habits, right? Like there's just a human being has such a at least in our culture, they have such a tendency to have such bad habits. And it's like like when you have a bad habit, like what do you do to try to get out of it, right? There's some people who are like, oh, quit for 21 days or all these different guru things that people say. But what's your strategy to get out of a bad habit?
Well, it's definitely about addressing the root cause, because you can stop, and I used to drink a lot as a Polish person and I couldn't, and it took me years to quit, and I knew it wasn't good for me, but really it's like, that's the thing, it's like I could quit drinking, but then I would start smoking pot or smoking cigarettes or whatever. Like then you just
take mushrooms,
right? Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of people in the spiritual community just exchange alcohol for microdosing or big dosing. But I think like if we just focus on stopping the action, like we might just exchange it for another addiction. But I think it is about addressing the emotional root cause of it, which lives in the subconscious or in our programming during the first 7 years usually. And it's all really about like not being at peace in the present, and not being able to just be, really, because we're taught we need to do and be productive. And there's always, all these thoughts. And it's the hardest thing to just be. So it might involve subconscious reprogramming, right, of the trauma that lives within us that doesn't allow us to break free from these habits. There's this wonderful book that I highly recommend to everyone. It's called the presence process, and it helps you address, whatever the root cause is. Because when you address the root cause, then you automatically, your physical circumstances change. So if you're like trying to lose weight, right? Like, yeah, you can diet and, you can work out and you'll achieve some change, you'll achieve some results. But, unless you address the deeper issue, you might, kind of go back to the old behavior once you kind of let down your guard. So anyway, the presence process, it's a book by Michael Brown and a 10-week process that I love that involves the breathing practice that I do. And once you really integrate those charged emotions or these suppressed emotions that cause discomfort in your life, then you can be more at peace. You can be more present. You're not manifesting as much discomfort. And then you don't need the whatever helped you escape the present. So then like actually whatever you were addicted to becomes unpleasant. It's like now I can't drink alcohol because it just doesn't feel good. So, and sometimes I'd like to, I still get triggered and
let's take some shots.
No, sometimes I'm like, I wish there was a way to escape, but like I've tried so many different ways to escape. So now I guess I just do my breathing, but it's just like, no, I'm like, I know I need to sit with this and feel this because if I escape it, then I'll have to like deal with it later. And sometimes I still do escape or I react and, create drama. We all do.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like if you can practice like the pause and just being with it, being with the discomfort, that's like real self-mastery,
Yeah, I think for myself, when I started to be curious about, I guess my human design in a way, but just the way that I thought about things, was about 6 years ago, and now thinking about where I was, I'm like, oh my God, I've achieved mastery. But then every single day I realize that I have, you haven't, because you don't know anything. So it's so interesting because it's like, although I've mastered this previous version of myself, there's all these things now that come up that I'm looking into that I'm like, oh my God, I need to figure out this now and this and this. So it's like this endless, it's like an endless process to achieve peace, right? There's no like, oh my God, I've done it.
Right.
Right. Like people think if you move to a certain location and then you're, doing certain practices and all this, like people chase, go around the world, go to India, all this stuff. And it's like, I'm going to achieve that state and then it's going to stick forever. Right. That's not, at least from my experience, not what happens. Right. It's an endless thing in life. But I think that the beauty in life, I think, is achieving a level of presence, right? So that you can be truly yourself, who you really are. And then once you do achieve that, then it's kind of like going into this crazy world that we live in. One of the books I really enjoyed that I read a long time ago was, and a lot of people have probably heard of it, The Autobiography of a Yogi. And in that book, one of the only parts I remember is he gets into yoga, right? He's doing the practice really seriously with a guru or whatever. And at one point he achieves like a level of mastery in his yoga practice and he's approved by his guru, right? And he says to the guy, he goes, well, what do I do now? He's like, I'm there. I'm on the mountaintop, right, of self-mastery of this topic. Like, what do I do? And you know what he says to him? He goes, you go back to your family, you go back to your town, you go back to work, you go back to life, to normal life. And then in throughout life, as things are happening, you go to these practices that you've learned, this yoga, breathing, all this, so you can remain at peace. But that's how you make a difference as you go back into life, right? And I see a lot of people, they that get into the spiritual rabbit hole, they like disconnect from life and society and all these people, and they like go in the opposite direction. They're just like, they're not participating anymore. And I think that that's sad. Like, I think we need to realize that we need to live in reality, but use these practices to enhance our being, enhance our situation, enhance our environment, and everything like that. So I have a question for you. Is Does environment matter? Right? Like where you live and like from your perspective, does that matter?
Yeah, for sure. And that's something I definitely use with my clients. There's a whole study of astrocartography or astrogeography, like where on the planet you experience different things. And it can be helpful. I mean, I've helped clients like find where they should, move to when they were looking to move. And and in human design, each person has the environment they thrive in. So for me, for example, it's caves. That's why also this is so I feel at home here.
Find someone in a cave. Here we go.
So, and that's like actually something that's really important about human design is that because we were taught that there's like this one way to success and like we should all follow this like one path, and it's like different. Like human design is the science of differentiation and teaches us that different things work for different people. That's why, yeah, like someone else's path is different. Like my environment is cave, so I like love to work from home and, I love to be in my cave and feel like safe. Or when I'm with people, I like to feel, kind of safe around them. That's important to me. But like, for example, like there are different types of environments. But for example, markets people, they like love offices and, or mountains. People love to not just be in the mountains, but go to like, a higher floor in the building and have more perspective. So, so that's like really the acceptance of like, yeah, different people, different things work for different people. And that's beautiful. And that we don't judge each other as much. And you talked about how there's always another level. And yeah, it's like we're all in a rush to like arrive and get there, right? And like just be done finally, like achieve whatever.
Yep.
But that's why I think it's so important to practice that presence so that we're actually having fun along the journey. And yeah, realize we're never done. And yeah, I think we're all ultimately looking. But the reason why we're looking to finish things and achieve, right? It's like then we think we'll get like that unconditional love we're seeking. Because even whatever we do, I feel like all we seek is really love, whether it's through money or having a beautiful body, so it's
approval like from others and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing. So as much as possible, giving yourself that validation, so that you don't need it as much from the outside, and then it kind of arrives. It comes.
This is an important thing to touch on because a lot of people in our industry, in our niche, they're trying to get funded. They're trying to make money to buy a nice car, right? To buy a house. I mean, some people, it's, they want to pay bills, which is more, authentic, but they want these material gains, right? And they think that by achieving those, then all of a sudden they'll be, I don't know, approved by others and stuff like that. Yeah, like these people need to shift.
Well, maybe. I mean, there's nothing wrong with material things. I think again, it's about the intention, like, and again, in human design, even like some people are meant to just like want to spend money, and like for me, it's more about like living simply. And to me, like my peace and joy and fulfillment are so much more important. Like obviously, I would probably be doing something else if I were just about the money right now. Like, but, so yeah, so nothing wrong with, wanting material things or luxury, and some people are meant to want it more and some less. So, but I think it's not tying your worth to those things that's important. It's like, but we were taught to like, measure our worth by first like the grades and like,
oh yeah,
approval from teachers or parents, right? Like, so, and then eventually it's money and possessions, and it is very clear, or like how your body looks. And I think it does lead to some problematic things when we try to achieve those things at the expense of our health, and that can be money, like, kind of burnout. That's been a culture, and, that whole like, oh, I have to prove that I work so hard even, which used to be me too. It's like, that's how you get your validation, or even, injecting things into your body, like as not, many women in Miami do.
Artificial.
But like, yeah, if it harms your health, maybe it's not the best thing. So yeah, each person has to examine that for themselves.
So to surmise, don't take shortcuts, people. Don't take shortcuts. Try to live in alignment, like we've talked about. Be authentic, with yourself as well. That I feel like is extremely important. And then so you were working at a 9, because a lot of people listen to this work 9 to 5s, right? You were working a 9 to 5, and then. What was like the aha moment where you're like, all right, I'm leaving, getting out of here?
Well, actually, I didn't have the courage to leave. Really, I was in this.
They were like, Sonia, you gotta leave.
Basically. So no, so yeah, I was in that job for 5.5 years after my MBA, and it was a tech services company, and it was cool. I got to travel, go to like. India, and travel all over the US. And so I learned a lot, and I was in client services. So definitely some of the things that I did there are relevant to my work now. But yeah, in actually it was 2020, and I knew I had wanted to leave for a while. Like I knew I wanted to, coach, and but I was too scared. I didn't believe that I could do it. That was my limiting belief. And it's funny, I just posted today about a friend that I remember. I was living in Seattle. I was meeting with her, and she was a coach, or she is a coach still. And, I was telling her how much I hate my job. And she was like, you can really do this coaching thing, like, and this human design thing full time. And I was like, no, that's not possible for me. And anyway, so beginning of 2020, I got let go from my job, and it was a shock. But like it turned out to be the best thing that the universe could have done. Because it's like if you don't leave, like the universe will give you a push when it's time to grow. And
it's true.
And still, I didn't have that faith. Like I still was like, no, I need a job. And I was looking, and thankfully, it's like that rejection is redirection. So I would have been probably in Seattle had I found a job there. But yeah, it led me on this whole path. And I just realized I left Seattle like August of 2020. I went back to Poland thinking maybe I'd want to move back there. Which after a few weeks, it was apparent that I didn't. But I kind of had this aha of like, okay, it's now or never, Really, like if I get another job, like I'll never know if I could do this or not. So it's not to say that it was easy, and it's still, like all of I feel like the entrepreneurial journey is like the biggest personal growth journey, because all of your limiting beliefs, all your stuff about money, about your self-worth, about the value of what you have to share comes up. So but somehow I'm doing it now. So
you're living it.
I'm living it.
Well, there's limitless potential when you make the decision, right? You came to that decision that I'm gonna do this, and there's no turning back, and that was it. And then from now on, and until your mindset switches, maybe one day all of a sudden you're like, maybe it's not the right thing to be doing, right? Maybe that thought does come up, and then you don't catch yourself, and then you'll end up back, maybe in a 9 to 5 or whatever. But as long as you have that determination to figure it out, and there's no turning back, these things are gonna flow. They're gonna come to you. These opportunities, they're gonna lead you to where you need to go, and it's not easy, right? It's not. Really not easy at all. Even the situation I'm in, we're extremely blessed to have started a great company. But in the back of my mind, I always know that things could go wrong. Things could happen. Things don't last forever, right? And that's not to say that we're not going to work really hard, right, on the company. But it's just the matter of life. Like you shouldn't be so attached to certain things, and you need to be able to pivot and this and that, because it's just the game we're playing. In the business game, entrepreneur, if you're a trader, whatever, like things are very unexpected. Things are going to happen to you, and it could be your health, it could be unplanned, your health, it could be the market, could be your clients, whatever. So it's not easy. I do commend you for chasing the dream, right? And you're certainly doing it. I really enjoyed you being on this podcast, but also listening to you when you gave your speech at the event. That tells me, you're leveling up in your own right, and you're doing the damn thing out here. So I'm really thankful for you coming on the podcast. I just want to give you a moment. Where can people find you? What platforms, right? Where can they get in contact with you?
Sure. Yeah. I think I'm most active on Instagram at Sonia Petecka. My last name, Sonia Petecka, which you'll include.
We will link below.
Right. Or my website, soniapetecka.com. I know, the Polish name. So yeah, mostly Instagram, my website. Those are the best ways. And I post daily content. And really the last thing I wanted to say is, with this being redirected kind of in life and adapting to change, it's realizing, and this is really hard because when something happens and we're like, and like this change happens, we're like, no, it doesn't feel good. I don't want to change. And it's always happening for our growth and evolution. And sometimes it's so hard not to resist it. But eventually if you can surrender to it, another feminine principle, like surrender and trust, then you'll end up, in a place that feels aligned and fulfilling.
And that could be like on a boat in the middle of the ocean somewhere. And it'll be like, I'm at peace.
Everyone's path is different.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for being on another podcast. And if anyone wants to reach out to her, feel free to do so. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.